Am I muted? I'm not muted now. Okay. Yay, professional show business. Good morning and welcome to the Comics Experience Graphic Novel of the Month Club. Unfortunately, as I think you just saw, it had the wrong credits up front. That is, we're not doing last month's book, Everyday Machine Hero Boy, though that was a good book, and it's nice to point it out again. But our book this month is a really swell, very sweet, very warm and funny and energetic book. It is Alcatoe and the Turnip Child, and we are very lucky to be joined here by the artist, creator, ISAAC LENKIEWICZ. Hello, ISAAC. How are you? Did you mute on your side? Frozen. Okay. Hello. Nope. Professional show business. Isn't that a joy? So I'll vamp for a minute while we're waiting for. Don't put up the please stand by. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. So yeah, professional show business. I don't know I don't know how to fill time when we've been tired. Maybe we're going to put up the please stand by. We'll be back in a minute. I'm unmuted. Okay.
Hello.
Welcome back to the show. And ISAAC's here as well. Yay, professional show business. Love it. So as I was saying, welcome to the show, ISAAC.
Hello.
How are you doing, my friend?
Hi. Thanks for having me. Hi. I'm all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm doing okay.
Technology is always fun.
Bit frazzled.
Technology's always fun. Yeah. Okay. So so let's and if same thing happens again, we'll do this again and it'll be fine. It'll be fine because that's the way it's actually magic that this technology works at all. You're all the way in England. I'm in San Francisco. I think it's incredible that anything happens. So
yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
You're right. It's ridiculous.
Very good. Well, let me start you with the first question. It's always the same on all the interviews because I just love this question. Why comics? Of all of the things that you could be doing, and clearly you're an incredibly talented artist and a great storyteller. Why comics? What is it about comics that thrills you, that makes you excited, that fills you full of passion?
Well, okay, just came through. I guess I remember when I first got into comics. I wasn't that young. I got into them when I was a teenager, I think. I've really got into them. And I remember immediately thinking, oh, there are books that are as fun and as engaging as films. Because I did read when I was younger, but not massively, really. And I just felt like it was this portable world, I suppose, that you could carry around with you. And that always really appealed to me. and it's a kind of nice and cheap, sometimes cheap way to tell a story, and I guess it's kind of like in between books and animation and film, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you say you got into them when you were a teen. What brought you into comics? Was it like 2000 AD, things like that? Was it graphic novels? Was
Uh,
it manga?
right, yeah. It was just like, yeah, mainstream superhero stuff. That was what I
Oh,
really got
okay.
into straight away. I had a friend who was really into it. He was like really into he was really into like Spawn and stuff, and yeah, he got me into it. I just started reading just random issues out of the bargain bin, and I never like to start off with. I didn't like follow any stories. I just sort of dipped in and out of all these different issues. Um, I think early the early stuff I was into was just I started getting into a lot of image stuff and Dark Horse, things like that. I was really into Hellboy. That was big for me, Hellboy. I loved Mike Mignola. I still
Yeah.
do, but I was really into it for a while.
Interesting, because I don't really see any of that influence in your work, right? Like certainly
No.
not. It looks nothing like an Image comic, and it doesn't have that kind of thick black line that Mignola does.
Yeah, no, I was thinking that. I was thinking, as I said it, I was thinking that influence is almost invisible. But I guess I love how he used a lot of folk tales and folk creatures as well.
Yeah,
So there's
absolutely.
that.
Did you go to school to study art, comics in particular, art in general?
To straight out of secondary school. So when I was like
Okay.
16, I went straight to art college, and then I was there for the next 7 years. I was studying illustration mostly,
Mm-hmm.
but not comics specifically. And
Mm-hmm.
I was always making stuff outside of um, my course.
Mm-hmm.
I was always making like mini comics and things. So I didn't feel like I went to school and study for comics specifically. No.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did were there comics classes at the school that you went to, or was it because some art schools are very snotty about
No.
comics? Yeah.
Um, I think early on there were, comics weren't properly understood by my tutors, but later on we had some really good tutors, and they got it, and they were really encouraging. But we never had any specific classes. We had like narrative modules, uh, but yeah, never anything too specific.
What would be the difference between studying comics and a narrative module?
Yeah, I think because it was only um, like a module which wouldn't have lasted that long, uh, and we didn't have any like specific advice related to comics. It was more about just storytelling, and
Mm-hmm.
that could have been any medium,
Sure. Sure.
like uh,
Yeah.
illustration for book. It could be anything really.
What did you start? When did you start drawing comics? I suppose that becomes the next question.
Yeah, I started drawing comics when I was maybe like
Okay.
18, I think. I'm 33 now, so I've been like drawing mini comics a lot, and I used to go to comic conventions in the UK and just sell my comics. That's what I've been doing that's what I was doing up until I made this book, actually. Just casually making my own little mini comics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what I've
And
mostly been really
what?
into, is like indie comics.
Yeah. So that was what I was going to ask is what kind of mini comics were you doing? Were you doing, sort of this is the wrong word, but regurgitating like the comics that you had read, the sort of the Image comics and Mignola and things like that, or were you doing more kind of all ages kids stuff like this?
Oh yeah, oh, it's completely different. Yeah, yeah. The stuff I used to make was especially when I was younger, it was it was like, I suppose my influence was like Jamie Hewitt from Tank Girl, and
Mm-hmm.
like I was like reading Preacher and
Mm-hmm.
Transmetropolitan. That's the sort of thing I was
Mm-hmm.
really into when I was first into comics.
Right.
Um, so yeah, my tastes have changed quite a bit, I think, since then. And I think only in maybe the last 5 years or so, I've started really thinking about all ages stuff.
Okay.
But there was, yeah, quite a big change, big leap. My influence has changed too.
Sure. So
I think
that's actually an interesting
there was
question.
this,
So what would you say your current influences are then?
yeah, there's like, I just felt like this big moment where I discovered like French comics, like Christophe Blaine and Johann Svar, all the L'Association people. Um, yeah, that changed. I feel like that changed my perspective on what I could make. I suppose that kind of blew me away when I first saw. Um, I think Isaac the Pirate might have been the first book I read from Christophe Blaine,
Right.
and I think just like the style of storytelling really really appealed to me.
How did you put together Alcatoe? I mean, did you what was the process to pitch it?
So, oh yeah, that actually came from, I actually put out a mini comic um, called Alcatoe, Alcatoe and the Giant Girl. It was just a short story. I think it was maybe, I can't remember exactly, but I think maybe like 20 pages max. And uh, one of the people who works for No Brow just said they picked up a copy and they said, "I'd like you to pitch this as like a children's book series using this character." I think he just really liked the character being this sort of cantankerous old witch woman, a sort of not a sort of reluctant hero type. I think that was the appeal. I think that's what they wanted. But I'd worked with the publisher before on um, some other things when I was still studying back in uni. Uh, I worked with No Brow, and I was like part of a few little anthologies and things like that. So they sort of knew who I was. So I was kind of like on their radar, I guess, as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So
so yeah,
you
they
so
said,
you
yeah,
so
they
you
asked me
did
to
it.
put together a pitch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. You did the sort of the original Alcatoe mini comic just for fun? Like you didn't have a particular goal with it or anything?
Mini comic I made. I'd I sort of created this little world, all based in this town, Plum Town. and I wanted to tell lots of different stories in that town. That was what I was trying to do, and I wanted it to be this sort of world where there were witches and they were well known, and it was kind of like I wanted to have it so witches were kind of like an analog for artists, and they'd have like sketchbooks or like books where they'd been working on spells. I just wanted to play with that, really. But yeah, it was just for fun. I didn't have any ideas for making it a bigger thing.
Yeah. Was it something that you did in black and white originally? Because it was a mini comic.
Yeah, it was completely black and white. Yeah, it was it looked very different. And it was just the story was nothing like this. It was a completely separate story. Yeah, completely different actually. Black and white. It was I printed it using a risograph machine, which is kind of like a screen, halfway between a photocopier and a screen printing process. And actually, I think I printed it in blue. It was one color, but it was just in blue.
Interesting. You were doing that at comics conventions or through the mail, or what was your sort of distribution on that?
Yeah, I was selling at comic shows. Yeah, so there's a big one in the UK. There used to be called the East London Comics and Arts Festival, and I used to go to that every year. And Thought Bubble in Leeds, I'd sell there, and there'd also be sort of smaller shows in Bristol, which isn't too far from where I live. So I'd just do like 3 or 4 a year and sell there, and that's it. Yeah, mostly that. Not really online. No, not so much.
Yeah. When you're
I just
when you're
enjoyed that
doing
whole I just enjoyed that whole process of making a new comic and taking it to a show and then sort of showing people people you see every year. It's like a whole thing. It's like it always felt more than about just selling a comic. It was like going and hanging out with people who did the same sort of thing and trading and stuff.
Yeah. When you're printing on a risograph like that, are you doing basically small batches, like 50, 100 copies, something like that?
Yeah, 50 to 100. That's exactly it. Small runs. And I think all the mini comics I was making and have made up like to this point, I felt just like they're just like a playground. There's somewhere for me to like learn as I'm doing it with less. There's like not really any stakes. You're just sort of making something and enjoying it, making mistakes, and just move on to the next one. So I like to do small batches because I'm usually kind of over it as well by the time I've sold out of those.
Yeah, I understand that. So what was it like then being asked by No Brow to sort of expand your little mini comic into a full-size book and presumably an entire series of them?
I only caught a bit of that. I'm sorry. Could you say that again?
No problem. Yeah. So the question was what was, and I apologize for everybody because we're having some internet problems. Obviously, this is life. So what was it like when No Brow asked you to expand it and to presumably make an entire series of these books, when your previous experience was just doing it for yourself? Sort of doing it for the satisfaction of having something to show to your mates, right? Was it a big change?
Yeah, it was a bit terrifying actually because I knew I'd had to. It changed the whole process really. It was I had like a team, like an editor and a designer and an art director, and it was yeah, it was like a whole different experience really. So I, when I'm making my own little mini comics, I don't really thumbnail it, or there's not really, there aren't really drafts. They're not. It's not like a draft one, draft two. It's just sort of the first thing I make is kind of the final thing. But with this, I'd be writing up a script, which I'd never done before. Um, yeah, like it's just like a classic straight up script, and then there'd be like 2 or 3 iterations of that script, and it's pretty cool working with an editor. It's really helpful. I found it's like they really iron out a lot of the creases. It's pretty great. But yeah, just the process was a lot more in depth. It's nice though. It feels like with every project you do, you kind of feel like you level up a little bit. And this, I really felt it here.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of changes and suggestions did your editor make in terms of, you know, when you handed them that sort of that first script? Are there particular things that you can point to that the editor brought to it or added to it or changed?
Right. So yeah, it'd be anything from like just it'd be usually making something more clear, making an idea clearer. Uh, but there was one. Oh, originally it wasn't going to be a turnip child. It was going to be a conker child. Do you have? I don't know if like horse chestnuts. I guess they're called.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They're and in the UK we have or used to have this game where you'd get a horse chestnut and then put a rope through it, or a string through it rather, and you'd hit each other's conkers, and it'd be like a conker fight. And I don't think they have that in the US.
Can't say that we do,
So
but I can
they
perceive it.
said no. Yeah, and originally it was going to be a conker child, and they were going to enter that conker child into a conker competition, and I think, yeah, it's just proving it, I guess. But my editors were saying that's not really a thing anywhere else other than in the UK, and it kind of isn't. It's almost not even a thing anymore here. So I think it was a good change.
Interesting. Was the editor the one that suggested turnip, or did you go, okay, well, if it can't be a conca, then it'll be a radish, a pumpkin, turnip? Like, how did that change get made?
Yeah, they did suggest. They just said they suggested it. Maybe it's just a vegetable child, and then they listed a few vegetables, and then I'd actually made a mini comic about a turnip child, like maybe 9 years ago, a long time ago, and I thought, oh yeah, I could. I always wanted to do more with that story, and I thought I could kind of like recycle that a little bit. Yeah, so that kind of worked out pretty well actually, and I just said, yeah, let's do a turnip, and
Yeah.
that was that.
Is it hard doing a story where your titular character Alcatoe is not particularly likable or nice? You know, because she's a witch, obviously. Where the kids in the Turnip Child become sort of the focus of it, you know, and Alcatoe is kind of like mean and, you know, rawr looking, you know.
Right, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that was the goal. It was to have this sort of villain as the main character. Um, And I suppose, yeah, the children kind of act as the point of view characters, I suppose. You're right. She's not she's not someone you just you necessarily sympathize with. But I like the idea of her kind of changing over the course of the story, or sort of not completely coming around to being good, because I didn't feel like that was realistic. I kind of wanted to still be really reluctant at the end.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like, yeah, I didn't want to do another story where the villain becomes, yeah, this good person by the end of it.
Right.
I felt like I wanted it to be a bit more grounded, I suppose.
Yeah. You mentioned that Nobra kind of asked you to pitch this as a series. How is that? Is it going to be difficult, assuming that you continue on with more stories, with Alcatoe being not a happy protagonist, I suppose?
Right, yeah. I think if there were more, I'd like the idea of just that process of her changing and being a more like amiable character, just being a slow, very gradual thing. I think that would be. I think it could work with depending on what stories those might be. I think there's lots of opportunity for her to kind of come around eventually, or maybe there would be different kind of lessons to learn, I suppose, for her. Maybe she would never change, and that could be. I think that could be quite like a good thing to represent. Sometimes you just don't change, and yeah, maybe that's good to see.
Sure. I love it. Okay, so you presented them a script. You went through a couple of iterations of the script. Then you finally had something that everybody was happy with. What was your next step? You obviously go into layouts at that point, I imagine.
Yes, I didn't actually thumbnail it in a way I think people usually might. I just sort of made full scale rough sketches. So they're kind of thumbnails but big, and then maybe there were like 2 iterations of those. So they sent them back saying, "Why don't you move this here? Why don't we have less panels here?" And so I changed things like that. Initially, when I sent it was I did. Oh, sorry. I did keep getting a note saying like it's too much. It's too comic-y. Like we were kind of like riding a line where they didn't want too many bubbles. They kind of wanted the narration to do more of the work. So we did try. It did end up being like riding the line between a picture book and a comic book, I think.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've had some reactions to it since it's been published. Some like positive things said about how they weren't sure whether it is a comic or a picture book, but they said it kind of it does the job of both, which I like the idea of that.
Yeah, I mean, I always feel like as soon as you start having more than one panel per page, it automatically becomes comics at that point. I don't know. Seems right to me at least.
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I said as soon as you kind of have more than one panel per page, it's comics as opposed to just being a picture book. you do have full pages
Right,
here,
right.
but I mean, absolutely there is, storytelling that's going on between the panels here. So it's comics.
Right, right. Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Do you know? There are artists who've done that, like, and it's interesting what gets picked up and chosen as, oh, chosen to be called comics. Like Raymond Briggs, the guy who did. I don't know if you know Raymond Briggs. I don't know if he's how
Yep.
British he is, how like
Yep.
if he's solely
Gets
British.
over here a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, he did like the Snowman and like Fungus the Bogeyman, and those are totally comics as well. But they're always you always see them in the picture book section. I don't know. It's funny how things start to. At what point is it where people choose that title?
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause
Well, I mean,
yeah,
a lot of times, the people who are working in the bookstores, don't necessarily have let's say, a rigorous intellectual basis for determining the difference between comics or illustrated prose, and they're just making it up as they go along. So,
right,
tis what it
right, sure,
is,
yeah.
I suppose. Yeah. Um, so you said that you didn't do thumbnails, that you did sort of larger size. Were your thumbnails basically sort of this 8.5 by 11? Your layouts, were they in the same kind of format as the book?
Yeah, I worked fully digitally on this, so it's.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I worked at those dimensions. It's funny
Okay.
to like discuss scale when you're working digitally because it feels really abstract when you're working on a screen sometimes. But yeah, they were full size. I sort of used them because I worked on the finals like directly from those files, so I used those as like the roughs and the pencils. I didn't tighten them up. I just went straight from roughs to inks.
Mhm.
I like to do that. I think it gets, for me, feels quite tedious looking at this, drawing the same image over and over again. You want to keep it a little fresh for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, uh, uh, the when you're working digitally, do you work like on a Cintiq or one of those kinds of devices?
I'm using a iPad Pro with Procreate.
Okay.
I did, and when I started working on the book, I didn't know like exactly how I was going to do it, and I used the advance I got for the first book to buy the iPad Pro, so it was all a bit close. And I was like, oh, and then I sort of I didn't yeah I didn't the early drawings I was doing because I sent a lot of concept sketches to the publisher
Yeah.
of the character, a lot of character designs, all done in pencil, and I still wasn't entirely sure what the finals were going to look like. And when I started, it just happened, and it was almost like just the style of it kind of came out of the necessity, and like it just was what it was, and it was what it had to be. And I've forgotten what you asked me. Oh, you asked me if it is all done on a synth. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it
Yeah.
was
So
kind
it
of
all
just to get an idea of, from my point of view, was to get an idea of the scale of your canvas, right? Like
right. Sure. Yeah.
if you're working at this size and it's coming down to there, or if you're essentially working 1-to-1. So if you're
Yeah.
on an iPad Pro, it seems to me the screen of the iPad Pro is a little smaller than the
It
book, right?
is.
It's more like that.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. It's a small screen. Yeah. Yeah. Really small. But
So in other
um,
words, the final book is bigger than the size that you were working. Yeah.
almost. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting though because you've got that size, but you're zooming in, and you can make it any scale you want. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of hard to pin down. what scale I was working at. But if I was working traditionally, I would have worked probably to the same scale, or maybe a tiny bit bigger. Because I used to work traditionally. I used to use like a brush and ink.
Yeah. What for you is the advantage and as well as the limitations between working physically and working digitally?
Yeah, it's considerably quicker working digitally for me. I'm a lot less precious with my final artwork. I know that things can be fixed easily. I remember when I was working traditionally, I'd be scanning in extra drawings and like pasting them on top of the old drawings because I'd be messing up so much. And that used to really stress me out working like that. And like you'd have to like maintain your brushes. It's kind of, there's like a joy in that. There really is. It's like there's a joy in that process. But I just love the immediacy of working digitally. And I guess it feels like it's all kind of informed by what I learned traditionally too.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. When I think about more traditional methods of doing comic art with pen and ink, so often the creators are working, at page sizes that are like this, that get shrunk down, dramatically, and so
right.
a lot of the line work kind of tightens up, when you shrink it down for
Yeah.
reproduction. So that's,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
it's a little different working. What you see is what you get in a way.
Yeah. No, totally is. You're right. That is. Yeah. Absolutely. That is something I did. Issues like that did come up, and I did a few spreads early on that I went back and redrew because I was still figuring out what I wanted it to look like. And yeah, that's an issue I couldn't quite articulate actually. Yeah, that's a good point about the way it does tighten it up when it's shrunk. I think yeah, I think every artist has their own are comfortable in their own like and working in certain scales, like, and they're all different. I know people who work really big, and I've always felt comfortable working like small anyway, just sort of always been into that.
Do you think that
Yeah.
comes from your background of doing more mini comics, where you're essentially doing it on the same size of paper that you're going to print it on?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
always like the idea of mounting all of these pages and where to store them, and that always that always got to me. That always stressed me out. The idea of us just constantly producing all this stuff. Where was I going to put it? I've still got boxes of old art. I just follow me wherever I move.
Yeah, though on the other hand, intellectually at least, an awful lot of artists are able to make, I don't know if a second living is the right way to put it, but additional income from selling that original art later.
Yeah.
I mean, you were
Yeah,
talking
that's really
about you were talking about Magnola earlier, and I know that some of Mike's originals, now are thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
That you put them away for 10 years and then you can sell them to collectors and and have a whole second bite at the apple that way.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I used to sell original drawings quite a lot. That is something that's a good point actually. That's something I miss. But yeah, yeah, there is something in that. And all of my
Yeah.
biggest influences work that way. So yeah, I do I do still sketch, because that is something you lose when you're working digitally. And I do still sketch traditionally sometimes. I have a sketchbook, and I also like make things like non-digital things as well. That does feel like an integral thing that I didn't want to lose really. So
Yeah.
I've got other
I'm not. I
outlets
wasn't
for
criticizing. I wasn't
no,
criticizing your decision. Yeah.
no, I know, yeah. No,
They're
but you're
just
right.
things I think about, because I interview a lot of cartoonists, and everybody. This is one of the things I really love about interviewing cartoonists is that wide range of method and style that people work in. It's really unlike any other medium that I can think of, where you can draw up, you can draw down, you can draw digitally, you can draw physically. At the end, it all becomes its own thing, and it's all the right way to do it.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
one thing that like really stopped me early on. I used to read those like how to draw comics books and just think, oh, okay, I'll never do it then because it's just like so many rules to go by, written by I don't know who. Thinking,
Yeah.
oh right, I have to get this like lettering guide and I have to get like a blue pencil specifically, and
Right.
yeah, it's really off-putting. That's one thing that really was helpful to learn. Like there is no one way to do it. It's a ridiculous idea, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool hearing all different people's processes.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, if you look at, I don't know, at film or at writing prose, that tends to be a much narrower path on how you end up creating, than as compared to comics.
Right.
It's one of the I think it's
Yeah.
one of the best things
Yeah, I
about
see
comics.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you did your layouts. You do your well, let's call them inks, even though there's not ink involved. Um, uh, and that's approved. Do you do your lettering next? Is that your next step, or was the lettering
Oh,
sort
so
of?
yeah, we just so we place in the text like roughly where it's going to be, and I'm always planning where it's going to be from the start with the bubbles and everything, which I'm keeping
Mhm.
separate, and then um, the te- the actual lettering itself was actually the last thing we did. We
Okay.
So while the text was put there roughly, they gave me this guide to make my own font, and then we just sort of yeah replaced the text that was there at the end.
And is this font is based on your own handwriting then?
Yeah, it's sort of halfway between my own handwriting and because the guide you're given, you're sort of drawing. It's almost like you're drawing over like letters that are already there, so you've got that guide. But yeah, there are. It is. It's not necessarily how I'd write, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
essentially, it's my own created handwriting.
There's not a lot of examples in here of onomatopoeia. I only spotted one in a pass, like your little bonk right there. Where throwing the apple and he gets bonked on the head. That's your handwriting though, and not a
Oh yeah.
font. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Any
they're
kind of sound effect.
yeah, onomatopoeia.
That's all handwritten. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
It's a fancy word, I know, but I love it so. Yeah, no,
It's a
you're.
good
I mean,
one.
it's very clear that your handwriting and your and the font are pretty close to one another.
Cool. Yeah, and it's I don't yeah I don't think I'd do the onomatopoeic text in any other way. I think it's always nice when it's hand
Mm-hmm.
drawn. I like the way that looks,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't want it to
And
be
so
completely jarring as well.
Yeah. And so you did the color before the lettering. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Um, yeah, before the final lettering. Yeah, the color.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and that was just a. I got some help because just because of deadlines. I got some help doing the color flats,
Hmm.
and then I'd go in and work from those flats, just so I had areas selected for me.
Did you have a lot of experience with color prior to this, or?
I've been always trying to figure it out. It's something that's really intimidating, and I hear that a lot from other people too. But um, I'd had a little bit. But that's actually one thing that really scared me when I was getting into this project. But I just stuck to a limited palette, and then expanded that palette where I needed to, and that's kind of how
Hmm.
I did it. And I
Hmm.
wanted to kind of emulate a sort of watercolor look as well.
Hmm.
So I had some ideas, but I wasn't like dead certain of how I was going to do it before I did it.
Yeah.
But
Is
that's kind of
it
how I color everything now.
yeah, is it because I mean, coloring is one of those things that it's like the thing I know least about how the actual process is, or not that I mean, I know how it's done. I don't understand it in my head. I guess is the way I
Okay.
would put it. So you've got someone doing the flats. Are you then to get this sort of the watercolor effect that the book has? Is this just like filters? Is this what's the actual process of taking okay, well, this is brown, but now I've got to sort of do this wash kind of stuff around it.
Yeah. So I just for the flats, they're just like basically a template for me to select, and then I
Hmm.
can do whatever I want in that selection. So yeah, it's a brush setting. It's a brush,
Okay.
and it emulates watercolor essentially. I know there's this guy who makes these really good brushes, and I kind of solely use those. And you sort of tweak them a little bit to your own taste. But yeah, I'm literally painting as if it was the watercolor, sort of
Hmm.
doing a wash just like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, so I'm
Interesting.
just using the same process I would both if I was doing lines, just painting it in.
Yeah, nice. um yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's just it's a nice technique, and there's a real warmth to it that I really like. The sort of the texture of the page on top of this, sort of really cute cartooning, the kind of the richness of the watercolor, makes it very interesting.
Cool, that's good to know. I wanted that kind of. I just like that sort of look, I suppose.
Yeah.
That kind of analog look, and I think the quality of their Flying Eye books is printing is always like certainly helps it along.
Yeah.
Like the quality of the paper is always really good. They handle all of that really well.
Yeah. Yeah. Just in terms of a printing question, again, something that I don't really know very much about. The cover's got a certain amount of gloss and lamination, and there's a raised texture on the cover. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And is
yeah. I think they
it,
call it spot gloss. I think.
okay, spot gloss. Okay, is the nature of that something that you were dictating, or did the art director come along and do that? I guess is my question. Like, did you choose what's raised, or was it somebody at No Brow's offices that did that?
Right. Sorry. Yeah, that. Lost you for a second, but yeah, I got that. Yeah, that was their decision. That was the designer's decision to go. It wasn't something I thought about before. Yeah, that was all then.
Uh-huh. I like the texture of it. That's all.
Yeah, it's nice. The first time I saw it was when I got the book myself, and I was like, oh yeah, I like that.
That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So you said that that they asked you that ultimately they would love you to do a series. Have you started working on another book yet, or?
I don't know what I'm supposed to say, but I think, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was like, they're intending to do more, and
Yeah.
yeah, we're talking about the next one.
Yeah. So you're
Yeah.
still at the talking stage now, rather than the actual drawing.
It's just this yeah, the next one is just beginning. Yeah, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
early
How
stages.
long? How long did the book take you from start to finish? How long did the
Oof,
book take you?
sorry, Helen.
Yeah, no, it's understand. I mean, I get it. You don't have to apologize. You've got
Okay.
roughly 52 pages, let's say, of story here. Um,
Mm.
how long did it take you to do the various steps?
It took ages, but that was just because of me. It took so long. I think I just, yeah, I've got a day job and I don't do this full time, and I still think of it as a hobby, like comics as a hobby, and it's something I don't, I earn enough already in my regular job, and everything else, yeah, I don't feel, I don't feel like a professional. So with that comes the struggle of also meeting deadlines,
Sure.
and so that was on my side. But I think if I were to have kept to a schedule, it probably would have been done in about a few months, maybe 3 or 4 months.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But this one took about the best part of a year. This first book.
Wow.
Yeah,
Uh,
just
and
like
was this in a pandemic year? That you were doing the
yeah,
work?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. There was a bit of disruption there as well. I do forget. I should have said that first before saying how unprofessional I am. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. If I can ask, it may not be relevant, but what is your day job? Is it artistic as well?
No, it's I'm a cleaner. I work in the same university that I studied in
Oh,
as the
interesting.
cleaner.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I've been doing that for about 8 years now. So I do like a
Uh-huh.
morning shift, and then
Uh-huh.
I'll come back and I'll do an afternoon shift. So I do have a
Yeah.
lot of time to do work outside of it.
Yeah.
It's a good job
Uh
to have.
was the university closed during COVID?
Yeah, it was closed. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I did have a lot of time off there. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. Um and so I'm assuming that though now that you've sort of figured out some of the parameters of how to work, that the second book will end up being a lot faster. It's not going to take you a whole year to do volume 2, probably.
No. Yeah, it'd be a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Definitely. What's been done so far is yeah, been so much quicker. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I hope so.
Okay.
Yes, yes, definitely.
The answer is yes. Yes, it will. It will go much faster.
Considerably.
In your head, do you have an idea of how many Alcatoe books there might be?
I think the standard is like, I'm thinking like 3, but
Okay.
also open to anything, like any more. I'm also open to like anything really. I think there could be a lot. I think there's a lot to like tap there. There's a lot to explore in the world of Alcatoe.
Yeah. Very nice. And I guess my next question would be, you said that you hadn't really been doing all ages material prior to this. Um, what was the biggest change for you as a creator between doing stuff that's aimed at an older audience and then sort of reconceptualizing how you work for a younger audience, if there was in fact any change?
Yeah. It's not something I can really pinpoint necessarily. It was just a gradual change of taste, and I love all ages stuff. I watch cartoons still, and I think they're the basis for a lot of that. But I know, yeah, there are so many cartoons that I can enjoy as an adult, and um, yeah, just the stuff I started reading as well just changed. I think, as I mentioned with the French comics with Johann Svar, he did a series called Little Vampire, and that I love that, and I really wanted to do something similar to that. How it's kind of like a bit gross and it sort of rides the line a bit, but it's aimed towards children. I always liked
Yeah.
that stuff when I was growing up as well.
Yeah. Your biography at the back of the book, with a jumble of pop culture influences and nostalgic silliness, he aims to impress his childhood self.
Yeah.
Do you think do you think you're gonna? Do you think you did?
I think, yeah, I think so. I think so. I really hope so. I think I was always like I really liked looking at books that had so much detail, and I really tried to like pack as much in there in the background, just lots of stuff to spot. Um, and I always loved spooky stuff when I was really little as well. And yeah, I think so. I'd really like to think so. It's an ongoing thing though. I want to keep doing that. Maybe yeah, I think there's lots more I could do to impress him.
Nice. Well, I certainly hope that we're gonna see more. As I said, I liked this quite a bit. I thought it was a great fun book, and no brow, I'm assuming, is like, yes, we want more.
Uh, yeah, 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 yeah. That's at the moment. See.
Is there anything else that you're working on that you could or want to plug, or are you still at further away?
Yeah, it's all Alcatoe at the moment. Yeah, I've got ideas and lots of half-finished stories, and I really want to get back into making more mini comics next year, but nothing finished at the moment. No.
If everything went perfectly, when might we see a new Alcatoe book?
Uh, I guess yeah, next year, maybe mid next year. I
Nice.
don't know what I'm supposed. I'm probably not supposed to say that. but yeah, mid next year.
Yeah. Let's hope so. I mean, I would be eager to see more. I think you know, I think the particularly for cartoons and for comics, you know, sometimes
Cool.
it's getting to that third volume before things start really taking off. I mean, even looking at other things that No Brow publishes. I mean, Hilda took a couple of books, you know, before it started becoming big, you know.
Hmm.
So
Right. Yeah. That was wild. That was cool to see.
yeah,
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
yeah. Is there anything? Because you said that one of the things that you like doing is doing little bits in the background or just little details. Is there anything here that you don't think that people have necessarily picked up on yet?
Um. There's hmm. There's always those little sort of hooded creatures, little hooded people,
Uh-huh.
and they've kind of they're like stealing things throughout the book. They're sort of
Right.
always there, kind of like raiding Alcatoe's house. I wanted there to be like a little story happening there too,
Yeah.
and that's yeah, that's what I want to keep doing, that sort of thing. So in future books, I'll be doing that too. Yeah, another little story going on in the background. That's the goal.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. Okay. Well, you know, I think I may be out of questions. Especially because the lag is a little hard here. Um,
Yeah,
oh, but I know what the last question I'm going to ask is, and it's the same last question in every interview. Um, because this is a series of shows, that we have a lot of people who watch these, who want to be cartoonists themselves, who want to make their own comics, but they don't know where to start or how to start or what they should do. So if you had a piece of advice that you wanted to give someone, to give, you know, 18-year-old you, about how to make comics and how
right.
to approach it and what to do, what might that be? It could be anything. It could be something physical. It could be something sort of emotional or spiritual or intellectual. What do you got? What's your advice? What's your joy?
Right. uh, always think about making something. I always think about making what I'd like to see, I suppose. Um, if it doesn't exist already, trying to create something that you want there to be, and really making sure it's something you enjoy. That's like the priority. I think you have to really be has to be something you really love, and just do it. Just like, don't be worried um, about doing it wrong, and it's not going to be like perfect straight away. That's something that holds me back sometimes. Just put something down on a bit of paper or wherever, and just start it. That's like the hardest bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you did it, and it looks fantastic, and you should be very proud of this. I think.
Thank
I
you.
truly think that. So, really a great job. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
Yeah. No,
It's nice to
it's
hear.
my absolute pleasure. It's my absolute pleasure. Yeah. So yeah. Thank you for taking the time to talking to us today too. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry about the lag, and yeah,
Stuff happens. As I say, it to me it's all
it
magic
does.
that we're talking across a vast ocean and it's basically in real time. It's kind of insane. So it's very good.
Yeah, no, you're right. True.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I really,
Oh no,
it was nice
thank
talking to
you.
you.
Yeah. Ben, will you put me back on a one, please? So if you're sitting there at home and you don't know what to read because we're still in that place where people don't know what to read. I can enthusiastically recommend this. It is, as I say, it is fun and whimsical. It has got a whole world that's built around it. The characters are original and thoughtful and funny, and it's a pretty ass book. It's really good. Thoroughly recommend Alcatoe and the Turnip Child. And yeah, that was really good. Let's do some not house cleaning, but let's do some thanks here. I want to thank Ben for running the show today. Thank you, Ben. I want to thank Jordan for being a producer behind the stage, the stuff that none of you see, but like sending emails and doing all that kind of stuff. That's all Jordan. It's great. I want to thank my staff. I want to thank Zoe, Kat, and Katie for allowing me to be silly and sit here and do interviews with people about comic books while they run the work, because that's really awesome. I want to thank all of you guys sitting at home watching this and being a part of this. Especially all you kids. I know how much you love these books, and it thrills me and makes me excited. I also want to thank Isaac and all of the creators that are just like him, because I wouldn't have anything to do if it wasn't for them to be able to do this. Our next show will not be live streamed because I'm going to be live on the stage at Fan Expo San Francisco, the first comic book convention in the San Francisco Bay Area in like 5 years, 7 years. It's been a long time. I'm going to be on stage there doing the interview. We will then put the video of it up a couple of days later. But next Sunday, I'm doing the interview for Forest Hill Bootleg Society. This is for the adult club with Dave Baker and Nicole Gao, probably. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce the name. Go? Might be Go. Yeah, it could be. This is a great book. The adults are gonna love this. Our next kids club is a lot of fun. You guys are gonna love this one. It is called Super Trash Clash. It's a little shiny there, so I'm gonna try and get it there. And it's by Edgar Camacho, and it is. Oh, it's Other Ever Afters. Wow. Oh, we got this one a whole month ahead of time. You're right. The next one is it's Melanie Gilman's Other Ever Afters. Always running and getting me a copy. This is why I have people working here so that I can show the thing on the. How did we not get this? Oh, wow, that's really weird. Okay. Anyway, this is the next book. See, now you all know what's coming 2 books ahead. Isn't that cool? But you're gonna love this one too. They're all good. We have good taste, so and comics is really easy. And that's where we're at. And I want to thank everybody, and I want to thank you all for spending some time with us today. And again, I want to especially thank Isaac for spending time and being part of the show. Until then, we will talk to you all next time. Thanks very much for watching this episode of the Kids Graphic Novel of the Month Club. If you enjoyed what you were seeing, please subscribe and hit the bell up in the corner. We'd like to invite you to join the club. Every month you'll get a great new book curated by our staff, and it's a fantastic program. So please join. That address is running along the bottom right now. Thanks very much. Credits are all